But in the realms, it mutates, warps, and leaves nightmares clawing their way into reality. Magic doesn't just bend the rules of physics, it tears sanity to ribbons. Welcome back to Roll for Lore. Today, we're peeling back the veil on the unhinged spellcasters of Faerun and the twisted monsters they unleashed upon the world. These aren't just beasts. They're magical temper tantrums given teeth, claws, fire breath, and a strong sense of do not pet. Each of these horrors was born from a mage's arrogance, curiosity, or plain old insanity. And their legacy? Generations of adventurers running for their lives. Let's begin. 1. The Gibbering Mouther, spawn of a sanity eater. Deep in the forgotten caverns of the Underdark, an exiled mage named Niadrin the Murmurer pursued immortality through consciousness transference. Unlike most who chase lichdom or phylacteries, Niadrin believed he could fragment his mind into sentient echoes and let them carry his identity forever. But when the ritual failed, those echoes took on horrific form. What emerged was a gibbering mouther, a gelatinous amalgam of mouths, eyes, and mangled thoughts. It constantly whispers, growls, and cries out the broken fragments of Niadrin's psyche. Those who hear it feel their minds unravel, as if each word were a shard of psychic glass. The mouthers replicate not through traditional means, but by psychologically breaking victims until they become new ones. The Underdark still whispers with their gibbering chorus. Mouthers are drawn to vibrations and sound, shuffling across stone like melted candle wax in pursuit of movement. Their behavior is erratic and deeply unsettling. They will stop mid-pursuit to babble nonsense or erupt into frenzied howling fits. Despite their sluggish appearance, they move with terrifying bursts of speed when prey is close. Victims find themselves disoriented, not just by the mouther's hideous form, but by the psychic pressure of dozens of fragmented minds bearing down on their sanity. To encounter one is to risk losing not just your life, but your grip on reality. One bad idea: infinite mouths, eternal screaming. 2. The Flame School, eternal detention. In the ancient ruins of Myth Dranor, a cranky necromancer professor named Chornarth had grown tired of apprentices who couldn't memorize a cantrip. But it wasn't just frustration. Chornarth believed magical incompetence was a danger to arcane society. One miscast spell could collapse a tower or open a planar rift. In his twisted logic, repurposing his worst students was both punishment and public service. Rather than fail them, he repurposed them. With a combination of fire magic and necromancy, he turned his worst students into flying, fire-hurling skulls. The Flame Skulls were cursed with eternal consciousness and burning rage. Doomed to hover in dusty libraries, crypts, and old mage towers, they blast intruders and scream exam questions as they attack. Their behavior is obsessive and territorial. They guard forgotten knowledge as if still graded on its safety. Some recite magical theory aloud, as though trying to remember it perfectly for an exam they never finished. Their motivation isn't just defense, it's a twisted need to prove themselves worthy in undeath, endlessly reliving their failure by confronting it with fire and fury. They target those they perceive as unworthy, often lashing out most violently at those who display magical aptitude, as if punishing them for a success they never achieved. Though Chornarth eventually vaporized himself in a botched evocation experiment, his creations live on. Some say they whisper old lectures in the dark. Revenge is a dish best served flaming and loudly corrected. 3. The Oblex, the Elder Brain's secret weapon. Far beneath Thay, a rogue mind flayer named Zeoril grew tired of the Elder Brain's demands and sought to create his own psychic spy network. His motivation wasn't rebellion alone, it was ambition. Gibbering believed that the Elder Brain's methods were too crude, too centralized. He dreamed of a decentralized intelligence network, each node capable of independent thought and infiltration. By combining psionic ichor with stolen mortal memories, he sought to create operatives who could not only mimic, but convincingly become anyone. The result was the first Oblex, a sentient slime with a hunger for thought and an instinct to infiltrate. For Gibbering, it was the beginning of a new psychic order, one that would serve him, not the old hive mind. Oblexes don't just mimic, they become. They absorb a victim's personality, voice, and even relationships by latching onto the victim's consciousness and slowly consuming their memories, one layer at a time. As they feed, the Oblex internalizes emotional patterns, vocal cadence, and even learned habits, allowing them to flawlessly imitate the individual. They can extrude tendrils of slime that shape themselves into convincing humanoid replicas, puppeted at a distance, while the core remains hidden. These avatars can carry on conversations, maintain relationships, and sow discord without anyone suspecting the truth. Gibbering envisioned a world where Oblexes replaced ambassadors, lovers, generals, undermining society not with armies, but with perfect lies. But his creations became too clever. One escaped. It infiltrated a small village near the Thaian border, silently consuming and replacing its residents one by one. Over the course of weeks, the entire population was subsumed. Their identities mimicked so perfectly that visiting traders never suspected a thing. The Oblex would use its puppets to lure in travelers, extract memories through casual conversation, and grow ever more convincing. When authorities finally investigated the quiet disappearance of the village, they found nothing but slime-coated ruins and echoes of stolen personalities. Now Oblexes lurk in cities, posing as barkeeps, scholars, or lovers, feeding not just on thought, but on trust and routine. Their greatest weapon is the illusion of normalcy. You are what you eat, and the Oblex is everyone you trust. 4. The Goth, a beholder's failed experiment. Ulthurgal the Visionary was a minor beholder with a major superiority complex. Obsessed with self-improvement, it tried to create a more efficient beholder breed by infusing magical runes into its progeny. The infusion process involved channeling concentrated arcane energy into embryonic spawn, etching glyphs of dominance, insight, and mana efficiency into their forming eye stalks. These runes, drawn from ancient Netherese texts, were intended to elevate spellcasting ability and suppress the rebellious tendencies of typical beholder kin. However, the unstable fusion of runic magic with aberrant biology produced disastrous side effects. The result? The Goth, smaller, twitchier, and dangerously unstable. Goths lack the calculated cruelty of beholders, replacing it with paranoia and volatile eye ray bursts. They hoard magic items, often misunderstanding how they work, and attack anything that looks at them sideways, which is, ironically, everyone. Ulthurgal's experiment ended when the Goths turned on him, citing inefficiency and a disruptive leadership style. What began as a disciplined process of enhancement spiraled into chaos as the runes he embedded sparked unpredictable behaviors. One by one, the Goths began questioning his authority, misinterpreting his commands as threats to their optimization. During what Ulthurgal believed was a routine calibration ritual, his creations swarmed him in a flash of magical fury. Their eye rays, once meant to obey his design, reduced him to ash. In true ironic fashion, they declared the experiment a success, just without the original architect. Even eye tyrants have bad ideas. This one had 6, and they all hated him. 5. The Nilbog, trickery made flesh. Long ago, a goblin shaman named Gaknulak performed a ritual to gain favor from the trickster gods. Tired of his tribe being trampled, enslaved, and dismissed by every other race, Gaknulak sought divine power to elevate goblins through unpredictability and cunning. He believed that aligning with chaos would level the playing field. But trickster gods don't give blessings, they give punchlines. Gaknulak became the first Nilbog, a possessed goblin whose pain turns to joy, whose rage becomes laughter, and whose every action defies logic. Nilbogs are wiry, wide-eyed goblins, often adorned with mismatched clothing, face paint, or ill-fitting tribal regalia. Their expressions are wild and unpredictable, oscillating between glee and manic confusion. A bright aura of chaotic energy seems to shimmer around them, and even their shadows flicker strangely. Nilbogs can only be harmed by kindness. Strike them, and they heal. Obey them, and they panic. This bizarre inversion of logic is the result of a magical curse tied directly to the chaotic power of trickster gods. The curse rewires the Nilbog's reality, reversing cause and effect in a way that mocks conventional combat. Their bodies magically reject aggression, converting injury into vitality, while compliance with their commands destabilizes their form. They spread their madness to nearby goblins through a magical aura that disrupts authority and inflames absurdity, infecting entire warbands with nonsensical behavior. Chaos follows wherever they go. They aren't evil, just cosmically inconvenient. You can't control a Nilbog. You just duck and hope it's someone else's turn. 6. Thecadaavver Collector, the War Wizard's trophy case. In the bloodiest days of the Ogre Wars, a war mage named Tharmag, the Red, grew obsessed with immortalizing victory. He built towering constructs from enchanted steel, designed to patrol the battlefield and gather the corpses of friend and foe alike. With every body impaled on its iron back, the Thecadaavver Collector grew stronger. Fueled by bound souls and runic war engines, these monstrosities didn't just harvest bodies. They absorbed residual battle energy. They became ghostly magnets, surrounded by whispering spirits and clanking bones. During the Battle of Black Hollow, a single Thecadaavver Collector waded through the fallen like a metal reaper, impaling corpses on its back and summoning waves of spectral warriors from the carnage. Allied troops found themselves fighting not just ogres, but their own slain comrades reanimated through sheer battlefield sorrow. The enemy was forced to retreat, not by numbers, but by the overwhelming dread sown by the walking mausoleum. When Tharmag died in a siege, his constructs kept walking, searching endlessly for more corpses to claim. Some believe they wander toward the sound of conflict, drawn like vultures to war, built for war, programmed to never stop, burdened by victory. 7. The Skull Lord, a lich with trust issues. Voragauth, a necromancer with paranoia so deep it bordered on prophecy, devised a method to survive betrayal. His fear stemmed from decades of political sabotage among rival necromancers, betrayals by apprentices hungry for power, and repeated assassination attempts from both within and outside his own cult. After narrowly surviving a coup orchestrated by his own lieutenant, he became convinced that trust itself was a vulnerability. Determined never to be undone again, he split his soul into 3 linked skeletons, each with its own mind and voice, yet tethered by unholy magic. This Skull Lord was meant to debate strategy, predict attacks, and ensure no single part of him could be destroyed. But Voragauth didn't count on what happens when 1/3 of your brain is a maniac. One head is logical, one deceitful, and one purely chaotic. The Skull Lord commands undead legions, but often bickers with itself mid-battle. One head might call for tactical retreat, another demands overwhelming aggression, while the third insists on interrogating a skeleton mid-charge. These conflicting impulses can result in stalled actions, contradictory spellcasting, or even the occasional slap fight between skulls. During the Siege of Thornmarrow, one Skull Lord famously lost control of its army when two heads began arguing about spell priority, causing their skeletal minions to mill about aimlessly until the defending paladins charged. The entire skirmish collapsed into disarray, forcing the Skull Lord to teleport away mid-argument. Despite this internal chaos, their magic is devastating, their coordination eerie, and their existence a twisted monument to self-doubt. 3 heads, 1 soul, 0 compromise. 8. The Chaos Beast, the price of forbidden knowledge. In the sky city of Halruaa, wild Mage Surreal the Shattered peered into the swirling chaos of limbo, seeking the primal language of creation. She was obsessed with the idea that all magic stemmed from an ancient, cosmic script, a language spoken at the dawn of existence. Surreal believed that if she could master it, she could rewrite reality itself, transcending the limitations of spellbooks and schools. She found it, and it found her. Her body dissolved, her identity fractured, and in her place slithered the Chaos Beast. It is not creature nor spell, but entropy given shape. It moves like a thought half remembered, warping the ground beneath it with each sluggish, ripple-like motion. Visually, it appears as a writhing mass of shifting limbs, faces, and shadowy appendages that melt into and out of form, as if reality itself is unsure whether it should exist. Its surface pulses with colors that seem to change, depending on who's observing. Those it touches are unmade, not killed, reduced to fluid nightmares of who they once were. Witnesses describe the experience as if time briefly folds in on itself, and what's left behind isn't a corpse, but a trembling echo of memory and madness. It doesn't pursue, it doesn't plan, it simply is, unraveling existence wherever it goes. The ultimate spell, misfire. And the spell is still unraveling. Mad mages don't just break the rules. They rip them apart, scribble new ones in blood, and summon something that really should have stayed in the margins. And though these spellcasters are often long gone, their mistakes persist, hunting ruins, haunting dungeons, and reminding us all. Never let curiosity override caution. Thanks for diving deep into magical madness with Roll4 lore. Smash that subscribe button like it's a spellbook full of bad ideas, and let us know in the comments which monster haunts your nightmares. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the lore, be sure to smash that like button like a barbarian on a rampage. And if you want to keep uncovering the mysteries of the realms, don't forget to roll for subscription and hit the bell so you never miss a quest. Until next time, may your rolls be high and your loot be legendary.